Hi, everyone. Welcome to Elemental Flows. My name is Christina, and thank you for joining me in today's practice. Today, I have a bit more of an active flow, but specifically, we'll be targeting more of the hip area, but you can also expect some strengthening components in this flow as well. So let's get right into it. We're going to start on our mats today in Shavasana. So come into a comfortable position here and close down the eyes if that feels comfortable for you. We're just going to initiate our practice with a couple of deep breaths. So on an inhale, let's breathe in through the nose and exhale out through the mouth. Let's take these first few minutes just to settle in. So try to release any tension you might be holding in your body and allow the mat to hold the full weight of you. Let's now bend into the right knee. Just bring it in towards your chest. Notice what shifts in your body as you take this position. And then using the left hand, let's guide that right knee over to the left side. The right arm extends out to the side. And you can place a block here underneath your knee to bring the floor a little bit closer to you if that feels more comfortable. You can also add a head here. So if you're doing so, turn the head over to the right. Let's bring that knee back to the center. Now let's switch sides. So we'll extend the right knee out or right leg out. Let's bend into the left knee and bring it into the chest. Now using the right hand, let's guide that left knee over to the right side. And the left arm now extends out to the right, the left arm extends out to the left. And we turn the head to the left. Let's bring that knee back to the center. Now we'll bend both knees into the chest and let's just curl up into a ball here. So tuck the chin into the chest. And if you want, you could rock side to side or back and forth to give your spine a little bit of a massage. Now let's come to find stillness here. Once you're here, let's take the hands, bring them onto your hamstrings, and let's start rocking back and forth so that we can build up momentum to come up into a seated position on your mat. And then once you're there, let's extend the right arm out to the side and then bring it over to the left. So we're getting a side stretch here. And you could either take the left forearm down to the ground or you can use a block here and rest the forearm on a block. Just make sure both of your hip bones or both of your sit bones are planted to the ground here. And as we're here, we're opening up the chest and looking up to the sky. Now from here, let's drop that right hand so that it rests on the outside edge of that left thigh. We take the left hand behind us and we turn towards the back of the mat. Release that and we'll repeat that on the other side. So this time we take the left arm out to the side and then bring it over to the right. Open up the chest and look towards the ceiling. Try to extend out of those left fingertips. Now let's drop that left hand so that the arm rests on that right outer thigh. And then we take the right hand back behind us to come into a twist. Release the twist. Let's come back to a neutral position. And then we'll come up onto our knees so that we can meet in a tabletop. So our shoulders are over our wrists, our hips are over our knees. Let's do a few rounds of cat and cow. So on an inhale, let's arch the spine as we open up the chest, tilt the chin towards the ceiling. On an exhale, let's round the spine as we tuck the chin into the chest. Let's do a few rounds of those. So on an inhale, we arch the spine and lift up. Exhale, we round the spine, tuck the chin in. One more. Inhale, we arch. Exhale, we round. Now let's come back into a neutral tabletop. Now we're going to press into the left hand so we can lift that right arm up to the ceiling. And then on an exhale, let's swing that arm down and through to the left side as we take the side of the head down to the mat. Again, notice if you're holding any tension in your body and just try to release and breathe into those spaces. Let's press back into that left hand to bring that right arm up into the sky. Then we drop that hand and let's repeat that on the other side. So this time we press into the right as we lift the left up. And then on an exhale, let's swing that arm down and through to the right. Press back into your right hand to lift your left arm back up. And then release that left hand down to the mat. Now let's walk our hands forward so that we can come into a puppy pose. So we rest the forehead on the mat. And then if you want to intensify the stretch here, you can come up onto your fingertips. Just make sure that you are engaging your core here so that you don't overarch the spine. Now let's drop onto our hands if you're on your fingertips. Then we're going to bring ourselves forward so that we could come to lay down on the mat. Hands remain on either side of your chest here. And then we're going to do a few rounds of baby cobras. So on an inhale, let's press into the hands to lift our chest off of the mat. We don't need to go that high. Exhale, release the chest back down. We'll do a few rounds. So let's go for another. Inhale, we lift up. Exhale, release. One more. Inhale, lift up. See if you could go a little bit higher this time. Exhale to release. Now we'll lift the chest up one more time, but this time I want you to interlace your hands behind you. And as you do so, open up the chest. Try to keep those hands lifted off of your body. And then we release. Drop the chest back down. Now let's press into the hands to come up. We're going to come into a wide-legged child's pose. So bring the big toes together, knees are wide apart. Walk the hands forward and drop the forehead onto the mat. Good. Let's lift the forehead back up. Walk your hands in a little bit. We'll come up, bring your knees so that they face forward. We'll tuck the toes so that we can press ourselves up into our first downward facing dog. So since it's the first one, see where you may be holding any tension and just try to add some intuitive movement into your body to open up those spaces. And now come to find stillness here. Let's look towards the top of the mat and then walk the feet in towards the hands. On an inhale, we'll press the hands into the shins to come up to a flat back. Exhale to release the chest. The chest comes in towards the thighs. And then on an inhale, let's first ground through the feet and come into a standing position with arms following up overhead. And then press palms together and then bring them down through heart center. Excellent. Let's do a few rounds of sun salutations to warm up our bodies. So on an inhale, let's reach up. Exhale, we fold. Inhale, press the hands into the shins to come up to a flat back. Exhale, release the chest to the thighs, hands meet the mat. Let's step back into a plank pose. You could hold it here or drop the knees. But let's lower down, bend at the elbows to lower the chest. On an inhale, let's slide the chest forward and up to come to an upward facing dog or cobra. Exhale to release the chest back down. Tuck the toes, press into the hands to come back into your downward facing dog. Take a breath here. And look towards the top of the mat and walk the feet to the hands. On an inhale, we press into the shins to come up to a flat back. Exhale, let's release the chest. Ground through the feet first, and on an inhale, come up to standing with arms following up overhead. Then press palms together, bring them down through heart center. Let's go again. Inhale, we reach up. Exhale, we fold. Inhale, press up to a flat back. Exhale to release, hands meet the mat. Step back into your plank. Let's lower down through our chaturanga. Slide the chest forward and up for upward facing dog or cobra. Exhale to release the chest, then tuck the toes, press into the hands, send yourself back into your downward facing dog. Take a breath here. Then look towards the top of the mat, walk the feet to the hands. On an inhale, we press up to a flat back. Exhale to release, forward fold. And ground through both feet, and then on an inhale, come back up to your mountain pose with arms following up overhead. Press palms together, bring them down through heart center. One more round. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale up to flat back. Exhale to release, forward fold. Drop the hands to the mat, step back into your plank position. Lower down through your chaturanga. Slide the chest forward and up for cobra or upward facing dog. If you're doing upward facing dog, the knees come off the mat. Let's lower yourself back down, tuck the toes, press into the hands, and send yourself back into your downward facing dog. Let's look once again towards the top of the mat and walk the feet to the hands. And now we're going to bring the big toes together, and then we'll take a deep bend in the knees. As we do so on an inhale, let's swing the arms forward and up to come into our chair pose. So engage the core here. Make sure there's a long line extending from your sit bones all the way out through the crown of the head. Good, and then from here, let's extend the legs once again. Come back into your forward fold. Now let's walk the feet out so that they're hip-width distance apart. And then we're going to turn the toes outwards on a 45-degree angle, and then bend into the knees to come into our garland pose. So while we're here, I'll face forward for this, but while we're here, we're thinking about opening up the chest. You can use your elbows to gently press out onto your inner thighs. And again, lift up through the crown of the head. You could also place a block underneath you to give you some additional support if you like. And then from here, if you want to add this variation, let's open up the arms. So you send the left arm down and open up the right arm to the sky. You could even take a bind here if you have that in your practice. I don't, so I'm going to keep my arm extended up. Good, and then bring that right arm back down, and this time we take the left arm up to the sky. Good, and lower that left hand back down to the mat. I'll readjust myself on my mat here. Let's drop the hands down to the mat. As you do so, we straighten the legs, turn the toes so that they face forward, and once again, come back into your forward fold. So you can intensify your forward fold if you want to grab onto your elbows here or swing side to side. You can also interlace the fingers here and send the hands up towards the ceiling to open up the chest. This is your practice, so make or take whichever variations you like and whatever feels good in your body today. Good, and then everyone, let's drop the hands down to the mat and we'll go through our vinyasa. So send the feet back to come into your plank. Let's lower down through our chaturanga. Slide the chest forward and up for upward facing dog or cobra. Exhale to release the chest back down and tuck the toes, press back into your downward facing dog. Take a breath here. Now from here, let's lift that right foot into the sky and then bend the knee as you bring it forward into the chest so we can place that right foot down in between the hands. We drop the back knee down onto the mat and then swing the arms forward and up to come into your low lunge. So while we're here, think about dropping the shoulders away from the ears and sinking your hips forward towards the top of the mat. Now on an exhale, let's arch the spine as we bend at the elbows to cactus the hands as we look up. And then drop the hands down to the mat and then send the hips towards the back of the mat. And as we do so, we straighten that right leg and flex that right foot. We're coming into a half split. So while we're here, we're still thinking about elongating out through the spine. From here, let's walk the hands forward. We bend back into that right knee. And then we're going to tuck the back toes so that we can lift the knee off of the floor to come into our runner's lunge. See how low you can sink those hips while you're here. And then on an inhale, let's engage the core as we swing the arms forward and up to come into our high lunge. Make sure that right knee is directly over that right ankle. And again, keep the shoulders away from the ears. Let's drop the hands back down to the mat. Then we're going to turn the chest and hips over to the long edge of the mat. And as we do so, we open up this left leg so that the left toes are facing towards the ceiling to come into our skandasana. And again, you can use a block and place it underneath you to give you some additional support here. But while we're here, we're trying to turn up towards the ceiling to open up the chest. Now let's place the hands back down on the mat. We're going to come out of our skandasana by straightening that right knee, and we're going to come into a forward fold. So make sure that all toes are facing towards the long edge of the mat. We'll press into the hands to come up to a flat back, and then on an exhale, we fold. Let's drop the crown of the head closer towards the mat. And then bring the hands so that the wrists are in line with your heels here. Allow the head to hang heavy. Good. Let's take the hands now, place them on your hips, and then with a flat back, we're going to come and lift ourselves up to a standing position. And from here, let's turn the heels inward so that the toes are out on a 45-degree angle. We're going to lift our arms up overhead, and then on an exhale, let's bend at the elbows as we bend the knees to come into a goddess pose. See how much you can lower into your goddess. And then let's straighten the legs once again. Hands come back onto the hips. Let's go back into our fold here. So turn the toes so that they face the long edge of the mat. And then with a straight back fold all the way back down. And this time you can take any variation with your hands. So if you want, you can interlace the hands behind you and press the hands towards the ceiling to open up your chest. If there's another variation, such as grabbing your elbows, you can do that as well. Just once again, allow the head to hang heavy and try to release your lower back. Now drop the hands down to the mat. Let's walk the hands over to the right foot. And then from here, we're going to take a couple bends into our left knee. So let's bend and then stretch. Bend and stretch. One more time, bend and stretch. Excellent. From here, let's come into a lizard. So we're first going to turn our right toes so that they face the top of the mat, then bend into the knee. As you do so, lift that back heel off of the floor. Hands are on the inside of that right foot. And then let's walk that foot to the outer edge of the mat and find the variation of lizard that you like. So you can stay up here on your hands. You could also go down onto your forearms or use a block to go down onto your forearms. And you could even lower the back knee if you like, or tilt the foot out to the side so that you increase the stretch here on the inner thigh. Again, find the variation that works for you in your practice today. And if you're on your forearms or on a block, remove the block, come back up into your hands. Everyone now lifts that back knee up so that we can press into the hands and swing that right shin around so that it's almost parallel to the short edge of the mat. We're going to come into our pigeon pose. So from here, let's lift up through the chest. And you can use a block and place it underneath you here on the right side to help support you in your pigeon if you like. And then on an exhale, we're going to walk our hands forward as we lower the chest down to the mat and rest the forehead on the floor. Again, notice where you may be holding tension and just try to breathe into those spaces. And let's lift ourselves back up, walk the hands towards you. We're going to press into the hands now, tuck the back toes to lift the knee so that we can lift that right leg and send it up to the sky for a three-legged dog. So make sure that the hips are first square here. And then on an exhale, we'll bend the knee to open up the hip. Straighten that leg once again on an inhale. And then let's bring that foot down to the ground to come back into our downward facing dog. Take a breath here. Then look towards the top of the mat. We're going to roll our spine so that we can bring ourselves into a plank pose. And then let's go through our vinyasa. So you could still come to your knees if you like. Let's bend at the elbows to lower down. On an inhale, come up to upward facing dog or cobra. Exhale to release the chest, then tuck the toes, press into the hands, send yourself back into your downward facing dog. Take a breath here, and then we'll repeat that on the other side. So this time, let's lift that left leg into the sky, and then bend the knee, bring it forward into the chest so we can drop that left foot down on the ground. Let's lower that back knee, and then on an inhale, swing the arms forward and up for your low lunge. Now let's bend the elbows as we do so. We arch the spine so we can send the chest up towards the ceiling. And then release the hands down to the mat. Let's send the hips towards the back of the mat. As we do so, we straighten that left leg and flex that left foot. Again, maintain a long spine here. Think about bringing the crown of the head closer to your foot as opposed to curling it in to your thigh. Let's walk the hands forward once again. As we do so, we bend into that left knee and let's tuck the back toes so we can lift that right knee off of the mat to come into our runner's lunge. Hold it here for a moment and engage the core. Ground into the feet so that you can swing the arms forward and up to come into your high lunge. Again, see if you can deepen the stretch here and lower the hips. Now let's drop the hands back down to the mat. We're going to turn our hips and chest to the long edge of the mat. As we do so, our right leg is straight and our toes are flexed, or our foot is flexed so that the toes face up towards the ceiling to come into your Skandasana. So again, you can use a block underneath you here. But while we're here, we're thinking about opening up the chest to the ceiling. Now let's drop the hands down to the mat. We're going to push into the hands to help bring ourselves up so that both legs are straight. All toes now face towards the long edge of the mat. And we'll go into a fold here. So on an inhale, let's press into the hands to come up to a flat back. Then exhale, release, crown of the head comes closer to the mat. Let's walk the hands back so that the wrists are aligned with the heels. And allow your head to hang heavy and your lower back to release. Good. Now let's grab hold of our hips here, and with a flat back, we're going to engage the core to lift ourselves up to a standing position. And once you get there, turn the heels in so that the toes are out and on a 45-degree angle. On an inhale, let's raise the arms. And then on an exhale, we bend at the elbows and knees to come into our goddess pose. Let's straighten the legs once again. Turn the toes in so that they face the long edge of the mat. Let's bring the hands back onto the hips and we go once again for our fold. So on an inhale, let's extend out, and then on an exhale, lower yourself down. And then this time, take any variation with the hands that you like. So again, you can hold on to either side of the elbows, interlace the fingers behind you to open up the chest as you press the hands towards the ceiling. Do whatever feels good in your body in this moment. Now let's walk the hands towards that left foot and hold it here just for a moment. We're going to take those bends again, this time in the right knee. So on an exhale, let's bend into the right knee and then stretch on an inhale. Bend again into the right knee. Stretch again, one more time. Bend and stretch. Excellent. Now from here, we're going to place our hands back down on the mat, turn the left toes so that they face the top of the mat. As we do so, we bend into the left knee and lift that right heel off of the floor. Hands are on the inside of that left foot. We're going to come into our lizard once again. So walk the left foot out to the outer edge of the mat and take whatever variation of lizard that you like. So again, you can drop that back knee down, come down onto your forearms or onto a block so that you can rest your forearms. You could even add some movement here if you like. And now everyone come to find stillness in this pose. Come back onto your hands if you were down on your forearms. And if you had your knee dropped or your back knee dropped, come back up so that it's lifted off the ground. We'll press into the hands so that we can lift that left foot, swing it around so that the left shin is almost about parallel to the top of the mat. And again, you can use a block and rest it underneath your left bum cheek or thigh here to give you some additional support. And let's go into our pigeon. So on an inhale, let's reach up through the crown of the head, expand the chest, open. And then on an exhale, walk the hands forward as you lower your chest down to the mat. Let's take a couple of breaths here. Again, notice where you may be holding any tension. Just try to relax and breathe into those spaces. And let's bring ourselves back up. Press into your hands so that we can lift ourselves. But first, tuck the back toes so you can lift that leg. Press into the hands so you can lift that left leg up into the sky for a three-legged dog. The hips are first square. And then on an exhale, we bend the knee to open up the hip. Straighten the leg once again on an inhale. And then drop that foot back down to the mat. Excellent work, everyone. Let's roll through to our plank position once again and go through a vinyasa. Bend at the elbows to lower down. Slide the chest forward and up for upward facing dog or cobra. Release the chest back down. And then this time we'll press back into a child's pose. So big toes are together. Take the knees wide apart. And we'll walk the hands forward and lower the forehead down to the mat. Take a couple of breaths here just to reset. Good, and from here we'll open up the sides so the legs stay exactly where it is. We're just going to take the hands and walk them out to the left side for a stretch on the right. Now let's walk the hands over to the right side. And then walk the hands back into center. Good, let's walk the hands now back towards us. And we'll take the knees in so that they face the top of the mat. We're going to come into a variation of camel. So let's lift our hips off from the heels. We're going to place the hands on our lower spine so that the elbows, think about trying to allow them to touch behind you. And we're just going to open up the chest as we start to slowly arch the spine and look up. And so you can take a full variation of camel here, which would require you dropping the hands towards the ankles or the heels to open up the chest. I'm going to go for this variation today, though. Find the one that works for you and your body. And while we're here, we're thinking about arching throughout the entire spine. Good, and release. Let's bring our hips back down to our heels, and we're going to swing our legs around to come into a seated position on our mat. Once you're on the mat, bring the big face this way so that you can see a little bit better. Once you're on the mat here, bring the feet together out in front of you, and we're going to take butterfly. So let's just walk forward with our hands. You can use a block to support you under and place it underneath your forehead if you can't get that far. You see that I don't necessarily have the hip flexibility, so I can't get that far down. But I want you to really think about rounding the spine here and just dropping the head, allowing the head to hang heavy. You can also place blocks to rest your knees on if you want that additional support. Let's slowly start to lift ourselves back up. And I'm going to turn back around this way. And we're just going to come into a Shavasana, or come into a position where we're lying back down on our mat. Because we're not taking Shavasana fully just yet. There's a few more asanas left to do. So from here, let's extend that right leg onto the mat. We'll take the left knee into the chest. Again, notice how it feels this time doing this pose now from when you started at the beginning of the practice. And notice how it may feel a bit different. And if it doesn't feel any different, that's okay too. Just notice what has changed or shifted in your body. And then we're going to take the knee out so that it's aligned with the shoulder and lift the sole of the foot into the sky so that we can reach on the inside of that left inner thigh and then grab hold of the outer edge of the foot. So we're doing a half happy baby here. So think about pressing down into the foot so you can bring the knee a bit closer to the floor. Good, and then from here, we're going to bend that right knee so we can place the left foot or the left ankle so that it rests on that right thigh. And then from here, you could stay here, or if you want to intensify this stretch a bit, let's reach through so we can grab hold of our right hamstring and then pull so that you can bring the legs a bit closer towards you. So we're doing this, we're making sure that our feet or our left foot is flexed here to protect the knee. Good. And then from here, the legs stay exactly as they are. We're just going to turn them so that they come down to rest on the right side of the ground. So if this is too much for you, you could take any other leg variation that you like. You could also use a block and place it underneath your left foot so that the floor comes a bit closer towards you. But while we're here, again, try to breathe into any spaces where you may be holding some tension. And you can extend that left arm out to the side and turn the head over to the left. Let's come back up to a neutral position, and then we'll repeat that on the other side. So extend now the left leg down to the mat. We take the right knee first into the chest. Now let's bring it out so that it's aligned with the shoulder, and we'll lift the sole of the foot up to the ceiling, reach on the inside of that inner thigh, and then grab hold of the outer edge of the foot. While we're here, we're pressing into the foot to bring that knee a bit closer to the ground. Let's now bend into the left knee so that we can place that right ankle this time on the left thigh. And then you can hold it here, or if you want to go a little bit further, reach through so you can grab hold of the hamstring and then bring the legs a little bit closer to you. Keep that right foot flexed here. And now this time, let's keep the legs exactly where they are. We just bring them over to the left side. And the right arm extends out to the right. And we can turn the head over to the right. Let's bring ourselves back to center, or bring the legs back to center. And let's come into a ball once again. Tuck the chin in, wrap your arms around your shins. And then from here, we have one last asana before we go into our final resting pose. So from here, let's bring the knees apart so that they're about hip width distance or shoulder width distance apart. We'll raise the soles of the feet to the ceiling. And this time we're going into our full happy baby. So reach through the inner thighs and then grab hold of the outer edges of the feet. And then take whatever variation here that you like. So you can rock side to side to add some movement. You could even extend the legs out if you like, if that feels better for you in your body. Again, this is your practice. Find what feels good for you right now. We really worked on the hips in this practice, so you should feel a little bit more open. And then when you're ready, Release the feet and let's bring the legs down to the mat. Extend them out. We'll take the arms up overhead. Let's do one last stretch here. On an inhale, try to elongate yourself. And on an exhale, release. Excellent work, everyone. Let's bring our arms by our side for our final resting pose, Shavasana. And we'll close our practice today with just one releasing breath together. So on an inhale, let's breathe in. And exhale when you're ready. Thank you, everyone, for joining me in this practice today. I hope you enjoyed it. That's all for this flow, but if you want to stay in your Shavasana a little bit longer, please feel free to do so. Keep me posted how this flow was for you in the comments. But otherwise, I hope that you enjoy the rest of your days, and I hope to see you at the next one. Bye for now.